Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Love Soaps TV. I'm Roger Newcomb.
I'm Damon L. Jacobs. This has been such a fascinating interview series with Emmy Award-winning writer Tom Casiello. In this final part of our interview, he's going to share with us the last couple years of his life as one of the writers on Young and the Restless, as well as his decision in this last month to leave the show and go to New Horizons.
Right. An interesting choice, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So you really got to see some of the uglier side of business.
Yeah.
What was that like for you after being a fan of daytime, loving daytime, having so much passion?
It crushed me. 2008 was awful. 2008 was awful, and I'll say it. It was terrible, and I was not ready to say goodbye to the industry. I was not ready for my last memory of this industry being a picket line in January in a blizzard. That was not how I was going to say goodbye to daytime. And everybody told me, you blogged, you talked to fans, you will never get hired again. My agent told me I was unpitchable. I'd worked for all three networks, and I was never going to work again. And I kept saying, but I'm not talking about who's cheating on their wife. I'm not talking about who's a drug addict. I'm not talking about, who threw a phone at my head. I'm talking about the process and what we go through and what we like as writers and what we don't like as writers, and when we succeed and when we fail, because we do fail a lot. Sometimes we are the idiots in control. It happens. Yeah. So I'm putting a human face on this. So a lot of the question that always drives me nuts is, what are the writers thinking? The writers are 16 different people, and they're all thinking different things and have to get on the same page that the head writer is on. It's not like we share a collective brain and we are all thinking the same thing, And so I wanted to kind of put a human face on that soap writer, because there was so much vitriol and so much venom and so much anger towards the writers of all the soaps. And I was so crushed by what had happened at Days and the strike and so many people losing their jobs and so much. There was the FICOR situation, and the Guild printed the list of the FICOR members, and it was like a blacklist kind of thing.
The whole thing was ugly.
It just, and I have friends who I saw turn on each other, and I saw friends who wondered why I was still friends with people, and some people just wanted to get back to work and just try to get back to normalcy. It was just, I get why it all happened, and I'm not judging anybody or anything, but it was just awful. And all I could think is, I just spent 8 years in an industry where I worked with my heroes, and I learned so much, and I thought, we've all just kind of been reduced to acting like children right now, and I really just don't. Anything that the fans say about us right now, they're absolutely right. Wow, all of us, the network, it just felt so ugly at the end of it. For me, I'm not speaking for everybody. This is just for me.
Right. So then after that, you were told you'd never work in daytime again.
And I blogged for a year, and I talked to fans on Facebook and fans on Twitter. And again, I never gossiped. I never spread anything. It was all just, above board,
And then what happened?
I got a phone call. Well, I'm sorry. After what happened at Days, Hogan got hired at YNR, and he had said to a bunch of us, I don't want the same thing to happen again. I'm not pitching any of my friends. In case something happens with me and I don't last 6 months here, I don't want you to get hired and then get fired because of me. Which was fair. So fine. I thanked him for that. So, a lot of people assumed that Hogan got me the job at YNR. A year later, I got a phone call from a writer saying that my name had come up in conversation. They needed a breakdown writer to kind of step in immediately. There were personal issues with a couple, not personal issues, things happening in a couple of the writers' personal lives that they were going to take a step back for a few months. One had a maternity leave and the rest of everything else. So they needed a breakdown writer who knew the show to kind of jump in immediately and just start writing, and And so Maria had asked, as I understand it, I actually don't know, I wasn't there for this conversation, but as I understand it, Maria asked, do you guys know anybody? Can you recommend anybody? And two of the writers who were not Hogan said, who was really great? We worked with Tom Casiello for 4 weeks a couple years ago under Lynn, and he was really positive and just really fun to work with, and he knows the show really well. So I got the call, and I mean, it was really unbelievable. I really didn't know it was so out of the blue, and I was told Y&R will never hire you back again, you know, and no show will hire you. Why are you talking?
No
to
show will
fans?
hire you, except for the number one show for the last 22 years.
So I flew out I got a trial. I flew out. I met Maria.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down with her. I told her flat out, you have to understand something. I've had a blog for the last year. I told her the deal. I said, obviously, now that I have this job, I'm going to stop writing it because I couldn't keep doing both. Because the blog had become bigger. When I was at Days, the blog was about my personal life too. 2 years later, the blog had become about, let's talk about daytime. Mm-hmm. So obviously I couldn't talk about daytime while I was writing for daytime. She said, I understand completely. I said I would stop writing the blog, which I did. And, I said, but you have to understand, you can follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. I do speak to the fans. They do write things to me. I keep a tight lid on, please don't badmouth the other writers. There are message boards for that. I'm not trying to censor you. You can do that anywhere else on the internet. Just don't do it on my page. Mm-hmm. I was thinking to my friends. That's all. I may agree with you, but they're still my personal friends, and I'm not in the habit of badmouthing my friends. So Maria was cool with it, and I did a trial, and I worked there. It was supposed to be for a year originally, and I ended up lasting 25 months.
Wow.
And it's there's things I would wish I could have done differently at Y&R.
Like?
I don't know, but these are all like if I were head writer things.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, I was really disappointed in how this would just be personally. I was really disappointed in how the Philip Kane story played out.
Yeah.
And how quickly it was kind of wrapped up.
What were you hoping would happen with that story?
Well, there's a few different things. Obviously, I was hoping that it would have been paced out a little longer, and that the secret had been kept a little while longer, and that no one knew why Philip was back or why he had, agreed to fake his death after he woke up.
So it could have played out where Philip is back from the dead, and people have to speculate for a while, and it could have culminated in this the thing is
they knew he was miserable in his life. So for him to, and the thing is, we didn't write it like Philip faked his death. He had the real car accident. He really did almost die. He really did flatline. None of that was fake. It was just that he happened to wake up after everybody left the room. I know, but he happened to wake up after everybody left the room.
Right.
And realize, oh my God, this is my way out.
Right.
But his family knew he was already miserable with Nina, and miserable in the house, and in his marriage he was forced into. So it's not completely out of the realm that was why he did it.
Right.
But to find out there was more to the secret than that. But there was a lot of things. I really, really loved the idea of writing kind of a Philip and Kane brother relationship, and I love the idea. I'm really fascinated by stories of gay men and straight men being best friends. And just be best friends, not like a platonic, not a unrequited love thing. A lot of my guy friends are straight, and I'm really I think that's a relationship that isn't explored in any medium at all. Is the brotherly bond that can form through life between a gay man and a straight man, and have it just be friendship. I just think it's something that's no one talks about, no one explores it, and Tales of the City did it with Brian and Mouse. And everyone knows Tales of the City. Brian and Mouse were best friends, and I thought, wow, Armistead Maupin really caught on to something here. So I thought, Kane doesn't have really any guy friends, so I thought there's something about Philip and Kane being these brothers in a sense.
Yeah.
Where, you could do stuff with Philip and Lily, and Kane and if we introduce love interest for Philip, you know what I mean? There's not a triangle. This isn't coming out right, but I do feel like that relationships like friendships are explored less and less on soaps. It's all about either romance or hatred, and you miss the friends, the best friends, people bonding.
Yes,
and so
I have missed that on soaps in recent years.
So that was a great opportunity, and I wish we could have done something like that.
So let's talk Adam Newman here.
Okay. I can't. Here's the thing. I can't talk. Maria and Hogan and Scott have their, have what they wanted, and I support that. So I can't really
But it seemed like in the script they were building up more to him exploring his bisexuality.
Oh, that
and perhaps even being, really enjoy being with a man there was a build up to that in the press, and it ended up with one touch of a chin. And
well, I don't know. Okay,
there's
a couple of different parts to that. Because at no point that I'm aware of, at no point was Adam ever going to be bisexual.
Okay,
it really was going to be like he was going to like manipulate this guy and really hate every second of it. But Rafe was going to fall for him.
Okay, fair enough.
And in my head, it was going to be kind of this, merging of two stories where Philip kind of caught on to what was happening and would save Rafe from Adam. But that was
which would have been a very interesting story to play
out. But I know that Maria really wanted to do more with it. I think it was the network killed a lot of it. It was rushed through because of the network. There was a lot of interference. Again, people hate when I say that because they think it's an excuse, and it's not an excuse.
Well, anyone who's worked in any kind of bureaucracy knows that.
Yeah,
happens. It sucks.
I think it was going to be a lot more. I don't know. I really enjoyed for 2 weeks. We got to write these near misses of Rafe leaving the bedroom and Heather coming in.
Fun.
And that was the stuff I
love those
I was
scenes.
You want to write Rafe's in
Nikki
the shower.
Rafe's
in the shower, and Heather comes in and gets into the bed, and Rafe is stuck in the bathroom because Heather's in the bed. And there's so much fun stuff you can do. With all of that, and Adam really just manipulating him and doing these just awful diabolical things to him.
Yeah. One of the very popular storylines in the last couple of years was the Adam-Sharon pairing and how much even unexpected chemistry there was between these actors. And anything you want to say about that?
I unapologetically love them.
I
do. I really do. And
you wrote some of those
scenes,
yes.
A whole segment of the audience is going to
Well, some love them, some hate them, and that's one of the great things about soaps is when they could kind of polarize.
I love them. However, I will say I love them, but in my mind, they should never be together. Ever. I think
it's the old Roger Holly thing from Guiding Light. That's what made that relationship so complicated year after year after year.
They should never be together. I don't think Adam should ever fully win her. Yeah. I hate to say win, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I think I don't think he deserves it.
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves it at all. He never planned on falling in love with her. That was the one thing he never planned on happening. He never planned on feeling guilty for what he did. He thought he was above guilt. And he thought he was above guilt and above regret. I remember talking to Maria and Leanne about this, and we both got so giddy. I wrote the scene where he remembers his mom sending him off to college and being all motherly and being like, "You have your toothbrush, you have this," and it's "Mom, I'm going to Harvard. I'm not going to the desert." And she's like, "It's just you're going off to college and you're going to do so many wonderful things in this world, Adam." And he's remembering this. And he falls apart and breaks down on the stairs where Ashley fell, where the baby died. He falls apart in a puddle, remembering his mom saying, "I'm so proud of you. You're going to do such amazing things," and realizing that he's turned into his father, and that he's completely turned his back on everything his mom raised him with. And I love that moment for the character of Adam. I loved how Michael Muhney did it. I don't know. I love Adam. I love Adam and Sharon. I think they're I don't think they should ever be happy. I don't think they should ever be happy. But I think that, and I think what Michael Muhney and Sharon Tate have done is just so much. It makes you angry, and it makes you want to throw things, and it makes you feel passionate about it, and it makes you want to keep watching more and more and more.
Exactly.
And
And that is the appeal to daytime, and I think one of the reasons why Y and I are still up there in the ratings, because they can pull that.
And I know a lot of you disagree with me. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind whatsoever.
So then, what happened with Y&R? You were recently announced that you are gone from the show.
Yeah, I don't know when it started. Nothing really happened. I have to tell you, story decisions aside, because there's certainly things that, I wish we'd done differently story-wise.
Other than the ones we've talked about?
Yeah, I don't really want to get into specifics. It's just there were things that I thought, well, we can do this better, or I wish we did this differently, or whatever. But it's a big team, and you pick your battles, But Maria was always wonderful to me. Hogan's always been wonderful to me. That whole team, I adore that breakdown team and script team so much. I can't even tell you. We had so much fun and such laughter. I mean, they're just great. So it wasn't anything that they did. Nobody pissed me off. Nobody pushed me over the edge. I turned 35 in September. So I think
On
that
this
might have
team,
had
were you
something to do
still
with it.
seen as the kid, the way you had?
Yeah,
been,
only because
or-
I was the newest hire. Yeah.
Okay.
I've always kind of been considered the kid on
The
every
kid?
writing team I've had. Actually, when I flew out to Days to meet everybody, like 8 months after I was hired. And the first thing Ed Scott and Greg Mang did was go, "Oh my God, you're so young." Like it really, I have to say, it's so weird because the rest of Hollywood, they want younger and younger and younger
Yeah.
people. This is the only industry I've ever been in where they're like, you know, you're too young, you're too young, you're too
So at
young.
age
you're too young.
35
But yeah,
on network television.
Yeah, they
You're
yeah.
still young. Wow. Okay. So what happened with Wayne?
I don't, part of it was turning 35. Part of it was just that, I was, things were feeling really routine. I wasn't getting any more adrenaline. I wasn't getting any rush. I still loved Y&R. I loved Genoa City. I loved, some of the things we were writing. I wasn't, it wasn't feeling like me anymore. And for somebody who kind of had chased after this dream and lived it, I can't explain it. And it wasn't a moment. There wasn't a moment of revelation. It was just kind of a gradual thing that by November, December, I was like, I turned to my partner and I said, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I might be done. I think I might be okay with leaving. And he looked at me like I was crazy because this was all, everybody knows that ever since I was 10 years old, this is all I wanted to do. But you know what it is? I felt like at every show, at every job, under every head writer, good or bad, every week, what I love about daytime is you write something different. I've written everything from a Prison Break to 1950s Ireland to tornadoes to weddings to people grieving, drunk driving accidents, plane crash. Like every week, it's something. Medical dramas, procedurals, cop procedurals. Like you kind of learn and grow and evolve as a writer with every story you tell. And I kind of felt like I was retreading. For me personally, I kind of felt like I wasn't really growing anymore as a writer. I was just kind of rehashing things I'd done in other soaps. For me personally, in my episodes. I was like, oh, this is this scene. Oh, this is that scene. And I think this is something that probably a lot of daytime writers feel, whether they admit it or not.
Well, I think so, and I think your integrity in saying that and noticing that speaks volumes, because I think we sometimes can see on screen that there's a lot of writers who feel that way, but maybe don't.
It felt like
down.
I was like, oh, this is like this scene, or this is like that scene. And of course, I would never copy anything. I wasn't like I was plagiarizing. I'd always try to put my own spin on it. But for me personally, I started to feel like, and it wasn't making me feel great. Like I wasn't proud of it. I wasn't collecting a paycheck and being happy about it, and rubbing my hands together in glee. I was feeling like, this, I'm not really growing or evolving or doing anything differently. And so, my contract was up soon, and I thought, I need to make a change. And Brian kept saying, my partner kept saying, are you sure? My family too. We're like, are you sure about this? Are you sure about this? And I said, I know, it's crazy. Considering 2 years ago, I was like a wreck. During that year, I was unemployed after the strike. Saying that can't be it, that can't be it, that can't be it. I have to get back into daytime. I was gonna, fight, kick, and shove to get back into daytime. And 2 years later, I was like, I'm ready now. And I can't explain it. It was, nobody was, an ass to me. Nobody treated me badly. I wasn't angry. It was just kind of like, it's time for me to find something else and do something else.
And you know what? In my life, I found those are when I'm thinking clearly and making the best decisions.
Yeah.
When it's not a reaction out of anger. When
Right.
it's just very much like, I'm not going away from something, I'm going towards something.
Yeah, and that's what. And I thought, you know what? Like, I had this amazing roller coaster ride. We got the Writers Guild Award. Which after the strike and being unemployed and being, getting fired because I was a guild member and because I was on the picket line and then not working for a year, getting a Writers Guild Award meant so much to me because I felt like after everything I went through with the guild, like, it feels kind of, it came full circle. So yeah, I really just felt like I wrote for Y&R. I came back to daytime when everybody told me I wouldn't be allowed back in the door. Everybody said, basically you'll never work in this town again. I worked again. I worked for the #1 show. I turned in episodes. Some episodes I wrote I'm not proud of, but I turned in a few that I'm really, really proud of.
Which ones?
And
are you proud of?
there's a few. I'm really, really proud of the 2 Phyllis voiceover episodes I wrote. The Billy Victoria wedding episode, The Father Knows Best, and The Nature of Evil. I know that fans have their issues with, they think Phyllis is a hypocrite, and of course Phyllis is a hypocrite. I didn't write those. I wrote those intentionally with Phyllis as a hypocrite. She's Phyllis, of course. Everybody else is wrong, not her. That's, But I love those 2 episodes. I'm really proud of them. I felt like structurally they were a lot of fun to put together and kind of figure out where the voiceovers would be and how to tie everything together. And I'm really proud of those 2. I'm really proud of Valentine's Day. I loved writing this past year. Valentine's Day,
2011.
Being able to, first of all, I love getting to write a Michael Lauren love scene, which we need more Michael Lauren love scenes.
I mean, because they're a pretty solid, quirky, loving couple on Daytime.
So I love getting to write Michael and Lauren sexy and the Adam Shammer proposal, and I loved Deacon and Nikki dancing and everybody seeing them. I thought Josh Morrow was so sarcastic and funny in that episode, with just like seeing his mother with Deacon and seeing Sharon with Adam and seeing Victor with Diane, and we got to see kind of a snarky side of Nick, which was so much fun.
Yeah.
And Josh, I haven't spoken to him, but he looked like he was having fun, just making snarky one-liners, which you never seem to make a wisecrack.
Wow.
So that I had a blast with that one, and
so it sounds like, you've really come full circle from that kid in Brooklyn.
So I thought this is really the end, and my pen was, I'm going to go to LA while I still have a job, because everybody told me if you want to go into primetime, you're going to have to start at the bottom again, start in the mailroom, and I have no problems with that. I have, I'm not the arrogant kid who won an Emmy at 25. I have no problems starting at the bottom. I have no problems working in retail again, and it's all fine. So my plan was I was going to move to LA and start at the bottom and work my way up again. That's how it was going to happen. While I still had a job, so I could find an apartment, find a car, look for work while I was still employed. And then out of nowhere, in February, I got contacted by the WWE, which was something I loved as a kid, and I loved again in the late 90s. It was kind of something I always fell in and out of over the course of my life. When I had time, I would be really into it, and then when I was, writing for daytime takes up 25 hours a day.
Sure.
You don't have time for anything else. So it was something that kind of fell in and out of my life depending on when I had the time. And depending on how soapy it got. Sometimes it was more serialized than other times.
Well, isn't it interesting how the WWE has kind of come out in favor of using the word soap, and yet so many other forms of entertainment now have.
That's new to me. That press release, that press release. But when I interview, they use that term a lot.
Yeah.
We talked about what things. I went through a lengthy interview process. I met with like 4 or 5 people, went back a few times, and we talked about what part of my previous career would, benefit them, and what parts to leave behind. And we were in agreement about, what parts of soap opera work in that, and what parts of soap opera don't work in that. It was very, it was when I first got the phone call, or the email, I thought, well, I never thought about this before. I never considered it, but I'll give it a shot. Why not? I'll go in for a meeting, and if I'll know right away from the first interview,
sure,
this is not for me. One of the things I really miss about being a writer's assistant, and I miss a lot of being a writer's assistant, is you are in the heat of it. You are producing 1 hour of television a day. You are running around. You are making the writers happy, and you're the liaison between the production and the writers, and you are dealing with the actors who come in and say, I'm not happy with this line, or I'm not happy with this, because the writers don't want to take every one of those conversations. So you're kind of the buffer with the ones where it's like, hey, do you need to talk to the head writer about this? But then there's some where they're like, yeah, you can change that word, because you know it's okay to change that word. Being on set, being in the control room, being on the studio floor, I loved that about As the World Turns, about being a writer's assistant, just being a part of the entire process. The last 4 years, I've worked for LA shows, and I've been working from my living room, which has its own advantages. I get to work on my underwear, sure. It's awesome.
3 in the morning?
Yeah, 3 in the morning, 3 p.m., 3 a.m., it doesn't matter. Yeah, of course there are advantages, but you feel very detached from everything. You feel very disconnected. You don't really know what's going on in the studio. You don't really feel like you feel like you're part of the writing team, but you don't feel like you're part of the family. Yeah. And which is not a criticism, it's just the way the world works. and so the more I talk to the WWE, the more, and it's live television. I have not done this yet, mind you, so I have not experienced it, but it's, it's live television. It's just wild production and directing and writing, and everything's happening live, and you're backstage running around like a crazy person, and the thought of doing that is so exciting to me. I can't even tell you.
Wow.
The thought of doing something that is so in my comfort zone, but so out of my comfort zone at the same time. Because we were talking about like our favorite, during the interview process, we were talking about our favorite stories and everything. And there was, a whole WWE story from the late 90s, a battle for the company, and a guy put his daughter in a loony, drugged her, and put her in a loony bin, and it was all very, like, soapy.
Yes, that is.
And
we've seen that.
I was like, that was, like, my, my favorite time period of the WWE, and I told him that, like, because I said, I'll be honest, I connected with that, because I love that kind of over-the-top, serialized storytelling. And that was kind of like, it kind of, reminded me of when we did, James and Barbara. Like, that was, kind of, I was like, oh, this is just like Vince and Stephanie McMahon, with Barbara whisking the women away. And
right.
So, I felt, there's a few people from soaps working there. I respect their privacy. I don't mean to say their names, but I know a few people who are working there. And they said to me, like, oh, you don't even know what you're in for. This is, like, such a wild experience and so, like, larger than life. And so, I mean, it's incredible. And they all look exhausted. But I'm all about that right now. Like, I'm all about this idea of doing something completely... I know storytelling. I know storytelling well. I'm a good storyteller. I'm not a genius. I'm not brilliant. I'm not a great storyteller, but I'm a good storyteller. That I can do. This kicks it up like 100 notches to, like, producing live in a stadium with 50,000 fans all screaming right then. And if they don't like what you're doing, they'll tell you right then and there in the stadium. And we went to...
I'm a little worried about you now, Tom.
I'm excited.
What do they do to you if they're upset?
They'll boo you.
Okay.
I mean,
Wow. That is so exciting.
Vince McMahon, I was actually doing research. Vince McMahon has a great quote where he says, why would I ever hire a focus group? I have a focus group every night in a stadium. Why would I ever hire a focus group? We didn't even
touch on the thing of focus groups,
but I don't... How many years have I been saying online, I don't know why you have focus groups, look at how many people online are telling you right away, live, while it's happening, what they think of it. I know. I don't
want to get started. We kind of have to wrap up in a few minutes, Tom, but I want to
babbling forever. I'm so sorry.
This is such an important part of soap history, and preserving the history is part of why we love soaps and why we want to preserve that.
Well, and I want to make this clear.
A big part of that.
I still love soaps, and I am still a fan, and this is going to be part of my world until the last soap goes off the air. And you know what? It's going to be part of my world when they come back, because I believe it's all cyclical.
Given your insights into the genre, given that soon there's going to be 4 shows left, what do those 4 shows... If you could tell those 4 shows how they could continue to thrive and have a longer lifespan, what advice might you give to any of those 4 shows? How can they stay on the air after this?
Really, it's do what you do best and stop trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, I love that.
However, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You are the best at what you do already. You don't need to be better than somebody else at what they do. You're already the best.
If you could go back to Brooklyn, December of 1998, and give that Tom Casiello kid one piece of advice... Knowing what you know now, what would that be?
Keep fighting. You're gonna want to give up fighting because everybody is going to tell you you're wrong. And don't ever give up, because it all works out. It all comes full circle. At the lowest of the low, it will work out. There were moments where I wasn't sure I was going to get out of it. I really didn't know if I was going to get out of it. I really didn't. And fortunately, You know, I have people in my life to kind of help me through it. But honestly, this has been... Sorry.
It's okay.
The last 12 years have been crazier than anything I ever possibly could have imagined in this life. When I wanted to make this dream come true, I never would have thought, ever, that 90% of the things that happened to me would happen to me. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of crap from people for, you know, it's so funny because a lot of the fans think I'm a yes man to my bosses, and a lot of my employers think I've betrayed them to the fans. So it's so interesting to me that they each have such a different perception of who I am and what I've tried to do, and kind of bridging this gap and kind of saying, look, this industry's dying. Yeah, you have problems with things we do, and you should. I'm not saying don't be critical. I'm not saying to you don't be worried about some of these more unbalanced fans. I understand that on both sides there are showrunners who make big mistakes with your show that you treasure. On the other side, there's people that you're a little concerned might come after you in the middle of the night. But you're talking about two fringe extremes. I can say this is all of America too. You're talking about two fringe extremes here, and we all need to come together and realize that we're going to keep this industry alive. We need to find some common ground. We need to. Yeah. Because we're not going back to 1979 soap opera. It's not happening. We have to evolve in some way. However, we also shouldn't take that to the extent where we're not recognizable as a serialized daytime family drama anymore. And until right now, everybody's like this over here, and we've got to find some middle ground. And that's all I ever wanted to do for these last few years with the blog, with everything, is say, okay, let's all find a way to save this industry by just kind of understanding each other and listening to what the other person is saying, instead of saying, oh, those are just the crazy internet people, or, oh, those are just the arrogant showrunners, the arrogant writers, the arrogant producers. Let's really listen to the conversation that's happening here and make changes on both sides to kind of bring this back to what it needs to be.
Well,
yeah, so
put.
I'm sorry.
No, that's beautifully put. I couldn't agree more. Your passion and your devotion and your integrity really speaks for itself these last 12 years, and I think Daytime has been lucky to have you be part of it.
Thank you.
And now the WWE will be very lucky as well.
Ecstatic.
And who knows?
Wait.
I've never seen one of them, but if you're part of it, you could probably convince me to try it.
It's going to be crazy, and I'm sure I'm going to stumble and fall a lot in the beginning, but it's going to be an adventure.
As long as you fall and they don't smack you down. That's what it's called, a smackdown, right?
Yeah.
Smackdown.
Yes.
All right. Tom, you're so wonderful.
Damon, thank you so much for everything you guys do, too.
Oh, hey,
thank you.
You know. We love soaps. Tom Casiello. Thank you, everybody.
So fascinating stuff. It's really interesting to see how the WWE is kind of rebranding themselves as an action soap opera. So good for them.
It's good to know, and it's good to know that there's still people who appreciate writers telling continuing story formats in different ways, and I think that's what we're going to continue to see as we go on in our soap history here.
Right, and thank you so much, Tom Casiello, for appearing on We Love Soaps TV.
Thank you, Tom. It was a wonderful interview, and thank you so much for helping us also with Gather Soap History and being part of that.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye!